Hello everyone, my name is Michael SK and welcome back to Umineko When They Cry, episode 4, where we are in the Golden Land, and by we I mean Ange, and she shouldn't be able to be here. Only Maria and Beatrice of the Mariage Sorcière are allowed to be here. Though apparently Ange has kind of cracked the code when it comes to the whole idea behind magic or whatever, and that has allowed her to get to this point. I don't know where we are in the timeline of things in regards to, what's happening on Rokkenjima this time around. That all might not necessarily matter anymore, but who's to say?
どうやってここへ引き取られよ。わらわはもはやここへは誰も招かぬのだ。
Beato spoke coldly. She seemed like a completely different person from the boldly sneering woman that she had once been. She had closed off her heart and shut herself up in a world where she was alone with Maria One-chan. A world where she could always be alone with a friendly Maria One-chan, lecturing about magic while drinking tea, with no one to hurry them and nothing to hold them back. A world where not a single person who might hurt them existed. Yes, to the two of them, it was a small, perfect universe.
悪いわね。あんたにここに引きこもられちゃ困るのよ。私たちはあんたが戻ってこなきゃゲームが進まないの。
わらわは飽きたからやめたと言った。もうゲームには戻らぬ。ベ
アトはね、ずっとここでマリアと一緒にいるの。ここで一緒にお茶を飲んでね、いろいろな遊びを考えるの。エンジェも一緒に遊んでいいんだよ。
マリア、それはならぬと言ったはず。わらわにはそなただけがいればよい。だからそなたもわらわだけがいればよいと。
ありがとう。マリアをそこまで必要としてくれる人はベアトだけだよ。ならベアトと一緒にいる二人きりでいい。
マリア、すまぬ。ありがとう。
Beato held Maria tight, even creating a small warm universe between their joined arms. It was probably the birth of the smallest universe in the world. The smallest universe in the world which a pair who needed each other could give birth to. No matter how small it was a complete world. But I had to tear it apart.
悪いけど、そういうわけにはいかないの。私はこのマリアージュ・ソルシエルの黄金鏡をぶっ壊しにやってきたわ。
なぜわらわの世界を壊すのか。この世界がわらわとマリア以外の誰に迷惑をかけたというのか。
あんたが初めて終わらせずにほったらかしたゲームでお兄ちゃんがずっと待たされてる。
Yeah, I mean, that did happen.
あんたが席に戻らなくちゃ勝負は永遠に終わらないのよ。
あのゲームにもはやプレイヤーは一人もおらぬわ。バトラは消え去り、わらわもまた消え去り、ここにいるあのゲームはもはや終わったのだ。
終わってない。あんたの始めたゲームでしょ。最後まできっちり責任を持って終わらせなさい。バトラを打ち負かし、あなたが本当に望んだ世界を生み出すか、あなたが打ち負かされ、あなたの魔法に飲み込まれた全てを解放するか、しっかり最後まで責任を取りなさい。
ダメだよ。エンジェ、ベアトはこの世界でマリアと永遠に二人きりで過ごすの。マリアもベアトさえいれば他には何もいらないの。ここでは全ての願いが叶う。全てがある。
This Golden Land is made up of nothing more than the crystallization of Beatrice's and Maria One-chan's thoughts. To drag Beato out of this world, I have to destroy it. I will destroy this Golden Land, which must be a final peaceful world in Beatrice's eyes.
お姉ちゃん、それは違う。この黄金鏡は嘘つきだわ。お姉ちゃんの本当に叶えたい願いを叶え。
そんなことないよ。ここでは何でも叶うの。見て、ここには優しいママだっている。
Okay, but that's not really her. Gold butterflies gathered behind Maria, forming into a kindly smiling Aunt Rosa. After smiling sweetly at me, it became golden petals and crumbled.
ここでは何だって生み出せるの。エンジだって生み出せるよ。バトラだって、ジョージお兄ちゃんだって、ジェシカお姉ちゃんだって。
Okay, then they're all fakes.
いくらでも呼び出せるよ。みんな優しくしてくれるよ。
Nothing here is real.
エンジもおいでよ。一緒に遊ぼう。
Sorry, One-chan.
サク太郎は
Upon hearing Sakutaro's name, One-chan looked like she was choking.
よせ、その名を口にするな。
Beato's expression changed as well, and she hugged Maria, guarding her shoulders. Sakutaro's name was still taboo for One-chan.
どうして口にしちゃいけないの？マリアお姉ちゃんの一番の親友の名前よ。どうしてその親友をこの素敵な黄金鏡に招いてあげないの？どうしてこの何でも願いの叶う黄金鏡ではサク太郎だけ呼び出すことができないの？
それは良いのだぞ。マリア、サク太郎のことを思い出さなくても。
サク太郎はママに殺されたんだよ。
I mean, yeah, that technically happened, I think, but I mean, Ange can summon Sakutaro back. Maria One-chan flew into a rage with a terrible expression on her face. Surprised by that voice, the butterflies throughout the garden flew up, blowing around like a typhoon of flower petals.
知ってるわ、ローザおばさんが大切なサク太郎のぬいぐるみを引き裂いたわ。
Maria's scream became a storm that violently scattered the golden petals and leaves. It truly was a storm of gold.
やめよ、やめよ、やめよ、やめよ。なぜマリアの心の傷を再び引き裂こうとするのか。わらわとマリアの大切な親友の眠りを汚すな。
ならどうしてその大切な親友をあなたの魔法で蘇らせてあげないの？
それができるものならやっている。しかしあのぬいぐるみはローザによる手作りの品。そのたった一つが引き裂かれた魔法的意味は。
ごまかさないで。どうしてサク太郎が蘇らせられないか。答えは一つだわ。あなたが本当の魔女じゃないからよ。
Man.
蘇らせられるとも。わらわの魔法でいくらでもこうして蘇らせられるとも。サク太郎でこの庭園を埋めることだってできようぞ。
ええ、できるでしょうね。あなたの魔法では。でもあなたの生み出したサク太郎は決してお姉ちゃんには見えない。どうしてか分かってるでしょ。もう一度言うわ。あなたが本当の魔女でないからなのよ。
やめて。どうしてエンジはそんなひどいことばかり言うの？ベアとはたくさん魔法が使えるよ。とても素敵な魔女なんだよ。サク太郎だけは蘇らせられなかったけど、他のことなら何だってできるの。だからサク太郎だけは我慢できるの。
Right, of course.
お姉ちゃん、それは違うわ。魔女にできないことなんてないの。それができない時点でベアトリーチェは本当の魔女じゃないわ。
それは違うよ。サク太郎のよりしろのぬいぐるみはママの手作りの特別なものだから。
だから蘇らせられないの？ベアトリーチェのあなたの魔法はそんなにも不便なの？
ならばそなたならサク太郎を蘇らせられるというのか。
I mean, Ange has, supposedly been able to summon him.
そなたの魔法ならばそれができるというのか。
できるわ。マリアお姉ちゃん、私が本当の魔法を見せてあげるわ。私がサク太郎を蘇らせてあげる。
本当？ ベアトリーチェもできなかったんだよ。本当に？
ええ、できるわ。その代わり約束して、私が作太郎を蘇らせてあげたなら。
That will dip the fuck out of here.
この黄金鏡から出て行きなさい。
Hey, you said yes before you heard the rest of it.
そんなことは許さぬ。ここはわらわとマリアの世界。マリアがいなくなったら壊れてしまう。
The minimum number of humans it takes to create a universe is 2. Otherwise, that world is destroyed. Where the fuck are these rules coming from? To drag out the witch shut away in the Golden Land, I'll have to destroy this world.
そう。それこそがあなたが魔女でない証拠よ。本当の魔女ならね。宇宙マリアージュ・ソルシエール魔女同盟。この同盟の存在自体があなたが魔女でないことの証になっている。
嫌だ。マリアは渡さぬ。そなたは嫌いだ。今すぐに帰れ。ここから出て行け。
勝手にみんなをゲームに引きずり込んでおいて、自分は機嫌一つで飽きたり追い出したり、なんて自分勝手なの。見なさい、ベアトリーチェ、そしてマリアお姉ちゃん。これが本当の魔法なのよ。
本当に作太郎を蘇らせられるの？
できるわけがない。ここはわらわとマリアの2人だけの黄金鏡。部外者のそなたに使える魔法など一つもない。今のそなたには超一匹生み出すことさえ叶わぬわ。
Well, Ange has been doing a really good job at doubting, or erasing the doubts that people have had, proving them wrong, I guess you could say.
静かにしてベアト。
So let's see if that will continue, and also, goddamn Maria.
エンジェお邪魔しないで。
We're really tearing things up here. I like it. Alright, well, what do we got? When Maria yelled, the storm suddenly stopped and the area returned to silence. The scene, as a massive number of golden petals that had been blown upwards quietly drifted down, was fantastical, as though a golden snow was falling. Maria, thinking about this unlikely if only miracle, had unconsciously joined her hands together as though praying. Beato watched Maria do this, her heart racing. If the extremely unlikely were to happen, Maria would... this world would... But it's unthinkable. Absolutely impossible. That stuffed animal, which had been the only one in the world, was torn apart and thrown away. And not a thread remained. Reviving it was certainly absolutely impossible. This is my Golden Land. A world where magic that isn't mine certainly cannot exist.
できるものならやってみろ、後ろ宮エンジ
At Beato's scream-like cry, the world lost its sound. I slowly recited the incantation for true magic.
さあさあ、思い出してごらんなさい。マリアの親友の作太郎。あなたがどんな姿をしていたのか。あなたがどんなに愛くるしいぬいぐるみだったのか。
Isn't this the same type of magic that was being used in the very beginning of episode 3 and was used quite a few times maybe in the previous episode for sure? It's the magic that made Beatrice who she is today. Expressions of shock rose to both of their faces. Then, pushing Beato's elbow aside, Maria dashed forward. Then, she clung to us both.
大丈夫。作太郎は消えないよ。
ウリュウ、マリア、ただいま。作太郎、作太郎。作太郎。会いたかった。
It was unmistakably that stuffed animal lion, Sakutaro. Its softness, its texture, its stitches, its everything Maria had forgotten. But the instant she hugged that stuffed animal, it all came back to her vividly. There he is.
ウリュウ、
For better or for worse, there he is.
マリア、ただいま。サクタロ、サクタロ、体は平気なの？どこも痛くない？あんなにひどいことされたのに、どこも平気なの？ウリュウ、エンジェが魔法で蘇らせてくれたから全然平気なの。よかった、よかった。おかえり、サクタロ。もうマリアといつまでも一緒だよ。永遠に一緒だよ。だから僕を離さないでね。離さないよ。永遠に。
Then, still hugging Sakutaro, she looked up at me with tear-filled eyes.
ありがとう、エンジェ。エンジェの魔法はすごい。
Yes, it is.
どうしてサクタロウを蘇らせることができたの？ベアトにもできなかったのに。
ありえぬ、ありえぬ。どうしてわらわの黄金鏡でわらわ以外の人間が魔法を使えるのか。こんなことは断じてありえぬ。
何をうろたえているのよ、ベアトリーチェ。これが魔法でしょ。
魔法のわけがない。ここはわらわの黄金鏡。わらわ以外の魔法は絶対に存在できない世界。そしてわらわの魔法でサクタロウを蘇らせることはできなかった。できるはずがないのだ。そのぬいぐるみは特別なぬいぐるみ。ローザが娘の誕生日のために作った世界でたった一つの。
Something's wrong here.
ね、魔法でしょ。
Hey, yo, why are you crying? She couldn't complete her statement there. With this miracle that she could not possibly accept, Beato understood all of my magic. She looked at Maria and Sakutaro innocently, frolicking around, looked at me, and then fell to her knees, with even her hands pressed to the ground, and cried.
ベアトリーチェ、これは本当に魔法なんだよね。魔法なんだよね。ベアトリーチェ。
魔法であるぞ。それこそが本当の魔法であるぞ。
どうしてベアトにもできない魔法をエンジ、どうしてエンジすごい。エンジはすごい魔女。マリアなんかよりもずっとすごい。本当の魔女だよ。
ええ、そうよ、お姉ちゃん。私は反言の魔女エンジェ。
Okay, I can go for that one.
私に蘇らせられないものはないわ。
すごいよ、すごい。反言の魔法って一番難しいってベアトも言ってたのに。エンジはすごい。本当の大魔女なんだ。
So is the resurrection more so out of trying to discover like a truth? Because that's the only way she's getting her family back. At that time, Maria's and Sakutaro's forms flashed gold, and the forms of the two became golden flower petals that crumbled away. As the two became a golden wind and swirled together, they left for some other peaceful place not here. Beato had, as promised, banished Maria from the Golden Land. Well, goodbye to this place.
さようなら、マリアお姉ちゃん。そしていつまでもお幸せに。大丈夫よ。お姉ちゃんの世界にも必ずあなたはいるわ。でもそれはあなたのことじゃない。
よかったな、マリア。わらわはそなたの親友としてその再会を。
On Beato's face was a mixture of what was probably every expression a human could muster. It was joy, anger, and sadness.
それが 魔法の根源よね。愛がなければ
It cannot be
悲し
seen
みがなければ怒りがなけれ
without
ば
anything.
魔法は見えない。
So we've been hearing all about this since episode 2. So without love was episode 2. Sadness and anger coming up in this one, especially anger very recently. So without the human emotions, then magic is just something that you cannot comprehend. Is that the idea behind it, maybe? The ground shook, an earthquake. It gradually summoned greater and greater fissures and began to tear Beatrice's final paradise apart. Time to get back to the game. Golden butterflies fluttered about trying to escape, but there was nowhere to escape to. And Beatrice was the same. The golden land began to crumble away. The earth crumbled downwards like a floor falling through, and Beatrice was sucked into the depths of a jet-black darkness. Hey, we're back in the purple world. Then she was mercilessly slammed against a jet-black floor. It was a dimly lit smoking room. There was no door to exit by, and while there was a window, it let no light into Beatrice's shadowy smoking room. Even though Beato was moaning from the pain of being slammed against the cold hard floor, she shakily rose to her feet. There was a seat there, and the game table, still just as it had been when she had left it. The game board also remained in the state that Beato had left it in.
そこがあなたの席よ。座りなさい。
わらわに座るべき席はここしかない。
Beato put a hand against her own seat and laughed sadly.
勝つか負けるか、あなたに与えられるのはそれだけよ。それに行き着く過程での引き分けは許されるでしょう。でも中断して投げ出すことだけは許さない。勝って生き残るか、負けて消え去るか、そのどちらかになるまであなたはその席を立つことなんて許されない。それが魔女のゲームのホストである黄金の魔女ベアトリーチェの唯一の務めでしょ。
Okay, but what about Battler? Like, are we gonna bring him back at all, or is he just gone? Laughing weakly, Beato sat in that seat. Then she rested her elbows and covered her face with both hands, showing off a smile with nothing but her mouth.
勝てぬゲームを逃げることは許されぬか。ならばよかろう。わらわが負けるまで繰り返そうではないか。
何よ気弱な、勝ちなさいよ。あなたの最善手を尽くしなさい。あなたが始めたゲーム、あなたには最善手を指す義務がある。いい加減に優柔不断にふざけるのはやめて。
At that time, there was a violent sound. Beato felt a cold, pathetic sensation on her leg.
捕まえた。
Hey, you look a little creepy.
やっと捕まえたわよ、ベアト。
おや、大ラムダデルタ教ではないか。まだおられたとはな。
Beato's foot was caught in an ice-cold steel shackle, tying her to the chair that she sat in. She would no longer be able to escape from this seat.
もう逃げられないんだからね。私こう見えてもしつこいの。意外でしょ。
自覚がなかった方が意外であるわ。
あんたには中座も中断も許されてないのよ。永遠に戦うのよ。勝つためにね。負けたくはないでしょ。負けたらどんな素敵な世界に叩き落とされるかちょっぴりだけ覗いてみたい。大丈夫よ、勝てるわよ。この大ラムダデルタ教があんたが勝つまでつきっきりで永遠に面倒を見てあげるから。
I guess you could say that Beatrice really, fell for Lambda Delta's trap here. But let's not all forget here, because I definitely did and just remembered, that there seems to be a little bit of a hierarchy system here. It seems like Beatrice is indebted to Lambda Delta in some sort of way, or at least she's underneath her. That's what it sort of seems like.
しかし戦いたくとも わらわの向かいに対戦相手はおらぬぞ。
大丈夫よ。バトラーを見つけてきたわ。
Oh, nice. Okay, well, he's still around then. When Burnkinstill appeared and clapped her hands, Battler appeared from the sky and plopped into the opposite chair. Battler's eyes were slightly opened, but there was no sparkle in them, almost like a doll's. Without one of the pillars that established his soul, he had fallen into the depths of darkness. Damn, we're going deep. And had been drifting about all this time. He should have then scattered and disappeared like mist. Burnkinstill had managed to scrape him together. It's incredible that she managed to bring him back into a human form. However, even though his flesh had returned, his soul had not. It had been blown away by Beatrice after having its existence denied. It wouldn't come back easily.
バトラもこの戦いを逃げないわよ。あんたに勝つのでね。勝ち目がなくなってきたからって全て投げ出して逃げるなんて、そんな無粋を許しはしない。彼だってそんなことを望んではいないわでしょ。後ろ宮バトラー。
Battler didn't answer. His heart was still dead. His eyes wavered slightly at the question, but he couldn't answer.
バトラー、しっかり。あなたはここにいるわよ。そして敵は目の前にいる。戦って勝つために。
Battler lazily repeated that, speaking incoherently. He'd come back. The wound he bore on his soul was no small thing. That was only natural. Beatrice had woven her red, and he had been denied. He had learned that the mother he'd respected was not his birth mother, and he didn't know who he was.
自分は後ろ宮バトラーではない。
バカなこと言ってんじゃないわ。あんたは他の誰でもない後ろ宮バトラよ。誰が認めようと否定しようと、あなたがそれを信じなさい。
I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, you are who you are.
あなたの世界はね、あなただけが作れるのよ。あなたが後ろ宮バトラである世界を失わないで。
じゃあ俺は誰なんだよ。お袋の子じゃないんだぜ。俺はどこから生まれてきたんだよ。
Battler asked that question as his eyes, which still hadn't regained their sparkle, stared lazily up at the ceiling. Of course, she answered right away.
ええ、そうね。レアトが赤き真実で宣言したわ。だから私も宣言する。後ろ宮バトラは後ろ宮アスムの息子ではないわ。
Okay. So, again, this goes back to something that supposedly occurred 6 years ago, when he abandoned the Ushiromiya family, and more specifically his parents at the time, because of the direction that Rudolph was going into, and I guess with Ange being born. So, what does all this mean, you know? Who is Battler's mother, well, his actual mother, but also, what impact really occurred 6 years ago? What is his sin?
なれば我がゲームの対戦相手の資格はないではない。
ベアトリーチェに復唱要求。後ろ宮バトラは後ろ宮金蔵の孫ではない。
Yeah, she can't do that. So he is still a part of the family. As Beato wrinkled her forehead, a painful-looking smile rose to her face.
復唱拒否ね。レアトが宣言した2つの赤き真実。バトラはアスムの息子ではない。そして金蔵の孫であるバトラにしか対戦相手の資格がない。これに矛盾せずにバトラに資格を認められるのは以下の仮説よ。これが私の青き真実。
Our theory, if you will.
ベアとの対戦相手の資格は金蔵の孫である後ろ宮バトラであって、アスムの息子であるか否かは問題ではない。すなわちあなたはアスムの息子でなくても金蔵の孫であることはできる。ルドルフの息子でさえあるならば。
Which I'm fairly certain that he is.
くだらない言葉遊びよね。
It did seem like a really weak, play on words, or not even a play on words, it was just trying to trick him up a little bit because he was so focused on his mother that he didn't consider the other family members that he was still tied to. His mother is not originally from the Ushiromiya family. Rudolph is. And that is the solid connection upwards to Kinzo.
青き真実有効よベアト赤き真実での反論は赤き真実で受けられないならバトラの対戦資格は何の問題もない
Battler was still out of it. He still couldn't really understand what she was saying for him. But even so, his spirit was starting to come back bit by bit.
じゃあ俺は誰なんだよ。
しっかりなさい。あんたは後ろ宮バトラ。確かにハスムお母さんがあなたを産んだわけではないかもしれない。でもだから何？あなたにとって母親であることに何も変わりはないでしょ。例えばあなたにとって後ろ宮エンジェは何？血は繋がってないかもしれないけど、それでも妹でしょ。血じゃないでしょ。絆でしょ。
そりゃそうさ。エンジェは血が繋がってなくても妹だ。
It's also worth noting that either the person that Rudolph has been, or the people that Rudolph has been fucking and having kids with has had some sort of gene, a really strong one that passes down this exact same red hair color or whatever, this shade of red. Rudolph has that, and maybe he got that from Kinzo, which means Kinzo somehow has all that shit getting passed down. I don't know why I'm getting into the biology behind all of this, but I mean, look at the color of their hair. Come on.
赤で言ってエンジェは妹だって言って。
エンジェは俺の妹だ。家と。
She hugged Battler, who was still out of it and slumped in his chair, strongly from behind. So much that it hurt.
どういう事情でアスムお母さんがあなたの生みのお母さんじゃないかはわからない。でもあなたは今日まで、そして今でも母親だと信じてるでしょ。世の中にはね、母親さえ家族さえいない人だって大勢いるのよ。アスムお母さんはあなたを寂しがらせたことがある？ないでしょ。あなたの平和だった家族を簡単に捨て去らないで。あんたは6年も家族の元から離れてたから家族の絆が希薄すぎるのよ。もっともっと家族の絆を強く感じて思い出して。ハスムお母さんのためにもこんなくだらない魔女の妄言で愛情を失わないで。
そうさ。おふくろはいつだってここはどこだよ。くれよ、帰りてえよ。俺の家族はみんなはどこなんだよ。
The light still hadn't returned to Battler's eyes, but tears appeared.
お家であなたの妹が帰りを待ってるわ。せめてあなただけでも帰ってあげないと。妹のためにもどうか魔女のゲームに勝って。
エンジェ、俺の妹。でもよ、わからねえんだ。どうして俺はベアトとこんなわけのわかんねえ残酷なゲームを永遠に繰り返さなきゃならねえんだ。
It is pretty incomprehensible, I'll give you that one.
もう嫌だ。
なら早くこんなゲームに決着をつけて。後ろ宮バトラー、いつまでこんなところで遊んでいるの。妹が帰りを待ってるわよ。
That's right. Battler had been caught up in this strange game before he even knew it. And still unable to understand why he was fighting, he had been constantly sucked into the witch's pace, played with, and made to fight. That should have been his most simple and first question, because he didn't understand that he had lost his purpose in fighting. That's why my voice won't reach Battler's ears. Instead of a vague purpose like winning against the witch, or because he couldn't forgive her, he has to be aware of a purpose for which he must win.
そうだ、帰りたい。親父やおふくろ、エンジェのところに帰りたい。もう 嫌だ。ここは嫌だ。もう魔女は嫌だ。ゲームも殺人も嫌だ。嫌だ。嫌だ。
バトラの魂が戻りかけてる。
でもあとちょっとが届いていない。
もう嫌でしょ。なら家族の元へ帰るためにも戦ってベアトリーチェを打ち破って帰ってきて。
Was that enough? Oh, nope.
もう魔女は嫌だ。ベアトも嫌だ。どいつもこいつも嫌だ。お前も嫌だ。お前だってどうせきっと魔女の仲間だ。
You know, I don't really doubt him for being suspicious of Ange like that.
いつまた裏切るかもわからない。何も信用できない。赤くない言葉は何も信用できない。俺に構うな。構うな。
Battler's soul howled. She hugged his head from behind, strong enough that it hurt. Oh man.
早く帰ってきてお兄ちゃん。私を一人ぼっちにしないで。
お前誰？
私よ、エンジェよ。お父さんもお母さんもお兄ちゃんも誰も帰ってこない。寂しいよ。お願いだから早く帰ってきて。
Man, the red text really is being a little abused here, but he did just say that he could not trust anything that wasn't in red.
お前エンジェだったのか。
そうよ、エンジェよ。誰も帰ってこない世界の後宮エンジェ。私の家族は全てあの日のロッケン島から帰ってこない。目の前のあの魔女が家族を全て、お兄ちゃんさえも奪い取ってしまった。お兄ちゃんだけがあいつをやっつけられる。あいつをやっつけて、そして家族を取り戻して、そして私のところに帰ってきて。
ベアトが俺の家族を。
そうとも。逃げも隠れもせぬわ。わらわが後ろ宮エンジェから家族を奪った。バトラはわらわの玩具よ。
Now here we go.
その父親も母親もそなたには返さぬわ。永遠に一人ぼっちで帰らぬ家族の帰りを待ってさまよい続けるがいい。
From Ange's arms that held him, the painful, sad days that had been experienced by his lonely little sister flowed into Battler. Because he had been playing around in a place like this, his little sister had been left all by herself, had been forced to endure all that pain.
エンジェ、エンジェ、くそ。俺は何をやってたんだ。ありがとうな。エンジェ、お兄ちゃんは大切なことをずっと忘れていた。
Battler tried to turn around, but Ange was hanging onto his head with an incredible force, so he couldn't turn back. Was it sweat? Why do we have blood? Hot drops were splashing on the nape of Battler's neck. What they were, he knew from holding Ange's arm that clung to him, because it stained Battler's hands, his fingers red.
エンジェ、大丈夫か？おい。
It dripped and splashed. He didn't know what was going on. Battler didn't know because he couldn't turn around. But the hot drops that stained his entire back were surely blood.
お兄ちゃんを助けるために、ここに来るために、唯一守らなきゃいけないルールがあったの。それがこれ、お兄ちゃんに私がエンジェだと知られてしまうこと。
Oh yeah, we didn't really keep up the secret identity here for too long.
辛かったよ。お兄ちゃんが目の前にいるのに、それをこのルールさえ守ればずっと永遠にお兄ちゃんのそばにいられるはずだった。お兄ちゃんと一緒に魔女と戦うゲームを永遠に遊べるはずだった。 でもそれじゃダメ。お兄ちゃんは帰らなきゃ。お家であなたの妹が。それは私のことではないけれど、それであなたの妹は救われる。
エンジこんなに違う。こんなに
He wanted to turn around, but Ange was gripping his head too tightly. However, judging by the blood that was pouring out and Ange's pained breathing, he realized that something seriously wrong was happening to her right now.
気にしないで。私は所詮駒だから。チェスではね、サクリファイスって言うんだって。
Oh, they got that move in a lot of different types of games.
サクリなんだって？
It's my favorite.
そんなことはどうでもいい。早く手当てを。この手を一度離すんだ。エンジェ。
サクリファイス、捨て駒のこと。戦略的展望のためにわざと損を承知で駒を見捨てることを。
In chess, the ultimate goal is victory. So, if it can bring you to victory in the end, there's nothing wrong with sacrificing a few individual pieces. Ange had coolly made a decision. She had been taught over and over again that she was a piece and not a player. In order to act like a piece and save Battler right now, she would have to become a sacrificial piece herself. Battler had to know. His purpose in this witch's game couldn't be something as abstract as finishing off the witch. He had to win the game, release himself, and bring his family back home. Why? Because he had family, a little sister who was waiting for him to come home. A being was created so that Ushiromiya Ange's voice could reach you. That's me, Ange Beatrice. I'll sacrifice the piece I am to give to you the will to fight, to give you purpose. My purpose isn't to play with you in a witch's game for all eternity. I came to bring you Ushiromiya Ange's mourning and sadness. That is my unshakable purpose. Alright, we got him back. The white, thin arm that held Battler became pale and transparent, almost like wax. And even so, the fresh blood stained it so cruelly.
私はもう消えちゃうけれど、お兄ちゃんは頑張って戦ってきっと私のところへ帰ってきてね。待ってるよ、ずっと。お兄ちゃんをもっといっぱい手助けしてあげるつもりだったのに、何もできなかった。ごめんね。
いいんだ。お前は俺に教えてくれたじゃねえか。どうして俺が勝たなくちゃならないか。そして俺が絶対に勝ってお前のところに帰ってやらなくちゃって。俺は何をこんなところでぼんやりと遊んでいたんだ。ああ、もうこんなところで遊んでなんかいないぞ。帰るからな、帰るからな。お土産持ってきっと帰るからな。
いらないから一つだけ約束して。
なんだよ、何でも約束する。
この手を今から。
Don't turn around.
痛かったでしょ。ギュッとしててごめんね。私は大丈夫だから振り返らなくていいから。だから最後にお兄ちゃんの一番かっこいいところを見せて、席を立って目の前の魔女を指さしてゲームの再開を宣言。
And don't turn around. Anything but that. Ange's hand slid and disappeared behind me. There were bloody fingerprints left behind, blurred by her fingernails. But I turned around right away, god damn it, to take care of Ange's wounds. And she's gone.
Ange.
ああ、振り向いちゃダメってやっ
Ange. どこへ
Well, she's gone, behind my chair, as though about 10 watermelons packed with blood had been smashed, and there was a sticky, pulpy mountain, and around that mountain of blood and mincemeat the clothes and shoes Ange had been wearing lay crumpled as though they'd been taken off and thrown away. As though just a human's insides had been pulverized and tossed there like scrap. As though Ange, who had been standing there until a second ago, had been crushed.
エンジエンジはどこだよ。エンジはどこに消えたんだよ。おい、エンジはどこに消えたんだよ。
The two young-looking witches said nothing, and just silently looked at the mountain of blood and meat and clothes. But I didn't want to accept it. I definitely did not want to accept it.
わらわはそなたの正面でずっと見ていた。そなたの後ろでエンジェがどう
お前は知ってるのか。エンジはどこへ行ったんだ。
生きながら焼けたでっかいペンチで一つま親指大の大きさに全身の肉を引きちぎ
Oh, that's fun.
捨てていくんだよ。わらわは見ていた。魔女の釜で真っ赤に焼かれた無数の残忍な工具の一つまみ一つま
What the
み
fuck?
肉をついばみひねる。
What a way to go.
エンジェは誇っていい。兄と最後の言葉を交わすためその苦痛の喘ぎを最後まで耐えたことを誇っていい。
As if something like that could have happened. But on top of that mountain of flesh and clothes, what had fallen there was without a doubt what she had been wearing on her head, those pink jeweled hair ornaments. To be honest, I thought that they were a bit too childish for her and didn't suit her, so I remembered them well. Why did Ange wear such cheap hair ornaments all this time? No. The thought that this is Ange couldn't possibly be.
ベアとも正直ね。
バトルには見えてなかったんだから、蝶々になって飛んでいったとか言ってごまかしちゃえばいいのに。
お前らもそれを見ていたのか。エンジがバラバラに引きちぎられていくところを見ていたのかよ。見ててそんな平然とした顔をしてたのかよ。
I mean, what were they supposed to do? Without answering, Bern could still, Lambda Delta, and Beatrice stared at me. Some in pity, others in derision, watching me. Since she'd called herself Gretel, and after what had happened with Regilia in the last game, I thought that she might be Beato's underling. And I'd been wary of her, not trusting her even though that she was an ally. And then, after learning that it truly was Ange, without even being allowed to see her face, I turn around and find something like this.
良いではないか、妹のことなど。どうせそなたは永遠にここから帰れなどせぬの。そなたが帰らぬ世界の妹などどうなろうが知ったことではなかろうが、そなたがここで遊んでいる限り無数の世界のエンジェが孤独となり、今の最後と同じ苦痛を10年以上にもかけて薄めて強いられる。だがそんなことはどうでもいいことではないか。 ここにいるそなたには見えない、観測できない、観測できない真実は赤き真実を用いねば立証できない。だからエンジェのその後の不幸はそなたの杞憂かもしれない。案外ルドルフの遺産でのんびりと生涯働かずに暮らせてたりしてな。
That's a lie. From Ange's arm, every part of that sad future world had poured into me in an instant. It's all because I keep on lazying about forever and playing in a place like this. I never thought about anyone but myself. I must defeat her. I'll take back my family, back to where Ange is waiting, and come home as soon as I can. Because even as I hang around with the witch like this, Ange's heart continues to be torn to bits by sadness.
エンジェ、お前が見たかったのはこれだよな。
Towards the cruel witch who had indifferently spoken of Ange's brutal last moments slowly. Yet, with all my might I pointed.
ベアトリーチェ。ゲームの再開だ。もう俺は逃げねえし、お前も逃がさない。
望むところよ。わらわはもはや逃げも隠れもできぬ。
Well, yeah, you're shackled.
わらわとそなたの決着を確実につけようぞ。どちらかが勝つ、どちらかが敗れて滅ぶ。それ以外の結末は存在しない。
俺は勝つ。どれほどの時間をかけようとも絶対にお前を打ち破る。この勝負にもう妥協も中断も不先輩もない。俺は逃げない、逃がさない。俺を本気で倒しに来いよ。くだらない騙しもごまかしもおかしな交流も馴れ合いも一切必要ない。お前と俺は敵同士。1秒でも早く決着をつけて俺はエンジェのところへ家族を連れ帰らなきゃならない。
Well, he has a new resolve, so that's good.
揺るぎなき決
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
絶対の意志、人間の絶対なる意志、それは奇跡に通じ、それを約束する。そう、これは約束された。わらわの勝ちは100億に一つも、いえひとかけらの奇跡も絶対になく、ありえぬということか。わらわの足にはいつの間にか音もなくこの椅子に縛り付けている。
Oh yeah, she's just straight up in prison for this game now.
わらわに残されたる運命はバトラに殺され敗北すること、それを拒み永遠に引き分けを繰り返すことも、いや殺されるための心の整理がつくまで引き分けを繰り返すの間違いか。いずれにせよわらは敗れるためだけに戦わねばならぬ。もう永遠の鎖はわらわを縛り付けた。そしてバトラもまたみっともなく許しを請うか、同情を請うために憐れみの心に訴えかけるか、なりふり構わず土下座して鎖のせいでそれもかなわぬ。チェックメイト。これは完全なる爪だ。だがわらわは黄金の魔女
Yes, she
ベアト
is.
リーチェ。
Yes, she is.
黄金鏡に君臨したる黄金の魔王。敗れるための戦いであってもわらわにはふさわしき態度がある。そしてわらわにふさわしき散り際を飾る権利がある。わらわとて同じそなたに我が魔法を存在を認めさせてこの島に黄金鏡の扉を開く。そなたはその最初の茶会の主賓となるだろう。そなた以外は全員がすでに揃っているぞ。主賓の到着が遅れているからいつまでも茶会が開けない。そなたの父親も母親もいとこたちもみんな
あ 上等だぜ。まったくにもって上等だ。何が魔法だ、何が魔女だ。お前との遊びはこれまでだ。行くぞ、ベアトリーチェ。
存分に来るがよいぞ。妥協も中断も不先輩もない。どちらかが勝ち、どちらかが滅ぶ。お前に負ける意志がないというのだ。わらわを倒すしかない。しかしわらわもむざむざと殺されはしない。
Yeah, I'm seeing that.
わらわにふさわしき最後をそなたが用意できるので、そなたにそれができるか。いいえ、できるだろう。必ずできるさ。来いよ、殺し。やりにくいか。ならばいつもの調子で行こう。
Yeah, that is the usual.
殺されるかよ。せめて勝てなくてもお前に勝ちを譲らない程度の嫌がらせはできるんだぜ。ほう、いい面構えだ。
Whole lot of crying going on here with the Ushiromiyas. And a lot of laughing with the witches.
殺してみろ、殺してみろよ。
Oh my god. And she goes into a whole ass... She's roaring. Oh my god. Oh. Okay. There's like a lot of requests there to be kind of, you know, killed. Among other things. I'm just gonna pretend my eyes were closed during that whole sequence. You know, ignorance is bliss. Which I guess you could say is where we've kind of been at with all this crazy nonsense going on here. Alright, we got our lovely trophies here. And the Golden Witch has prepared a gift. Ooh, nice. It's just the tea party, I believe. It's the same old, I think. Yep, there we go. All right, so yeah, we'll jump into that. Don't worry, in the next video, that is. I don't want to. I got to go to sub menu, or else we're gonna get a nice, lovely sequence. But we, yeah, I don't really know what to really think about everything that had gone down here. This has been such a different episode in comparison to the previous two after the game had really gotten going with episode 2. And then 3 was, you know, a bit different, but it seemed to follow a similar structure to 2. Just more elements, and now here with 4. Bringing in Ange, a whole new sequence of events happening in her timeline, which circled back around to the end here, which is very, very interesting and very hard to follow. I'm not really sure how to piece everything together in terms of a timeline, but we'll just say that there was a timeline, I suppose. I think a really good way to describe how I feel is that they just keep on pulling shit out of their ass. Like, they keep on making up more and more bullshit as they go along, and then implementing it into whatever we're seeing, whether that be Ange's time in her, you know, present or whatever in 1998, her timeline, or if it's going down in Rokkenjima, or if something's going down in the purple realm, or whatever. But it feels like every time they introduce a new character or a new idea, like the Mariage Sorcière, or a fucking talking lion with Maria, or the new characters, the rabbit characters that get brought up, or Gap, anything and anyone, it gets immediately implemented into everything, and there was no hint of it prior, or at least I believe there was no hint of it prior. It just takes what we just found out about and works with it, so it makes things even more confusing. That, or it feels that way because of all the jumping around we do. I don't know. I really don't know. But that's not my prediction or anything. I'm just kind of stating how I've, you know, felt this entire episode. We are not done with the episode. We have the tea party to jump into, and then we'll have the question mark section or whatever. And I was told that the tea party this time around is pretty damn long. I don't know how long. I'm going to probably say minimum we got 2 more videos, maybe 3 to go here in this episode. Not really sure. Depends on how much I commentate, ramble, and just suck at reading. Those combined things can really create a whole new video. It's hard to say. But then at the end of it all, I definitely want to sit down. I want to read off all the predictions that I've listed on my notes app, which isn't a whole lot. It's just kind of whatever I've come up with, but it might help me remember things that have occurred when I actually put these predictions down. And then something that I've been considering for a while, which is how this has all been a story told to us, where it's coming from, and really what sort of endgame we're trying to look at here, and how episode 1 is probably the key to everything. Which, yeah, that sounds very vague and stupid and maybe kind of obvious, but it'll all make sense whenever I blab about it for like a good hour in whatever video that gives me the opportunity to do all that. But for now, we'll call it good, and we'll jump into the tea party in the next video. So thank you all for tuning in here. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Take it easy.